Welcome to episode 3. I am your host, Camille Walker, and today we are learning about how to define and crush your goals with Jennifer Borget, who started as a news broadcaster with an income of $36,000 annual and has now paid off a brand new home in under 2 years with primarily her income. But the most impressive part is Jennifer's heart. She's been able to build all of this at home with her babies, really focusing in on what matters most, to cherish every single day. Let's dive in. So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? We'll listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. This is episode 3 of Call Me CEO, and I have one of my dearest, bestest friends with us today, Jennifer Borget. And
hi.
This is going to be so much fun for us because we are best friends and we are recent best friends. So I think it's kind of a romantic story about how we met. It totally is. So we're going to get into that, and then I'll allow Jennifer to introduce herself. So I am wearing my special Mickey Mouse necklace today. I'm a little disappointed. I didn't tell Jennifer to wear something Disney, but it was actually Disney that brought us together. So Jennifer, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Gosh, yeah. Did we meet the day? So we were both on a trip, a Disney World trip for Disney Creator Days. We got to bring our families. It was like this amazing experience, but I went without my husband. And I brought my mother-in-law, who was awesome and was so sweet, and said that she would come and help me with my 3 kids on this trip because I was not saying no to this trip.
That is needed, yeah.
But Disney can be hard. Like, it can be, if you're not used to it and all the walking and everything, it can be a little tough. And I know we were in the same group together at Hollywood Studios.
It was Star Wars, like the Star Wars tour or something.
Star Wars tour, yes, yeah. That's what it was. And my son was getting kind of nervous with the loud noises and the blast, and he was flipping out, and I needed to go take him to grandma. And then my youngest daughter was, I don't know, she wasn't sleeping. She was playing with your son's toys, I think. And I was like, can you just hold my baby for me while I run my son? And
if anyone has seen Lily, if you know Jennifer's page, all the things she shares, like, how could you not hold that baby girl? I was like, yes, let me hold her. I even took a picture of me holding her because I had 2 babies in my arm. I had Jet in one arm and Lily in the other. And I was like, they're the cutest ever. So, yeah.
I'm so glad that worked out. That you were just right there and willing to take my baby on a whim. And then we, the trip went on and we hung out on the cruise. And I remember one of the nights a bunch of us met up and I just felt like we hit it off. It was love at first sight, basically.
Well, what was interesting about it is it was really a bunch of the women that were there, and we were talking business. We were talking about what was working for us, what wasn't, the push and the pull of all of it. And Jennifer would say things and I would be like enthusiastically nodding my head like, yes. And then I would say something and she'd be doing the same thing. And I'm like, I feel like you're reading my mind. Like so many of our experiences and thoughts were so similar that we're like, okay, this cannot stop here. We must be friends forever. And that's how it started. So I think there's so fun. There's a lot of strength that can come from someone that you meet that can become a wonderful friend and ally and help cheer you on as you go. And I feel like that's been such a gift in business with other women, especially Jennifer, is having her as an ally and a friend and really someone I have come to count on.
Especially you. You're so great. Seriously. It's nice to know that you can still make women friends this late in life, not that we're so old or anything, but you think of best friends. I know I used to think of it as something like, okay, you're friends from high school or college and you stay in touch, but it's nice that you can still meet someone and just hit it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I want to I'll do a little intro of you before this episode starts, but go ahead and introduce us to you, your family, and your business. What are you all about?
Yeah, so my blog is cherish365.com, and it is a blog about cherishing every day with your family and with your family, whatever that may look like, right? And because all of us have different dynamics going on, and also just cherishing the little things that you might walk by every day and just not notice. It's kind of like a stop and smell the roses type message, and cherishing the things that make you unique and that make you an individual. Like, I look at my kids, I have 3 kids, and while they look very similar, each of their personalities could not be more different. And I know before I became a mom, I thought that, oh, my kids are going to do this and this and this, and they're just going to be like me, or they're going to be like my husband. But then after I had them, I realized that I, can teach them things, but they are their own people. So it's really about recognizing who I am, who they are, who all of us are. I hope that people can come in and read what I write about setting goals or cherishing the little things and walk away with ideas on how to become better.
I love that so much. And I feel like I've learned a lot from you, watching you really tap into the different needs and interests of your children. It's so evident to see that you really take the time to dig in and see what lights them up inside. And it shows. And I love that you share that on your platform in all the different ways. It brings joy and purpose to it. It accomplishes exactly what you're looking for, which is to cherish every single day. And that is so awesome. So take us back to when you were a kid. Where did you grow up? Did you see yourself doing this type of work? Like, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, this journey has been not expected for sure. Like, growing up, I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, and was in, a little town that was growing. We had a pretty diverse community. Like, my school that I was growing up in was probably like half Black, half white. Like in the South, they say it's so segregated, but growing up, like, we had quite a bit of diversity in our schools. And one thing that I loved was watching the news every night with my family. And I would watch Channel 2 Action News, and there was a news anchor on there that I loved, Monica Kaufman, although that's her name now. I'm trying to remember what it was when I was growing up because she got married. But I watched her growing up, and I saw her and I saw myself in her, and I said, that is what I want to do. I love writing. I love speaking and just talking and meeting people. I knew I wanted to, be a reporter and write stories and share stories about the world. And that was my goal. And like, from a young age, I knew that was what I wanted to do. And I set out and did that. Like, in high school, I was in the journalism, news clubs and things like that. And I did our daily news. I learned how to video edit and was always doing writing and public speaking competitions. And when I went to college, I knew exactly where I wanted to go to school and what I wanted to study. It was just all very set out and planned. And I was really fortunate that it worked out when I was in college. Like, I got a job while I was in college for a small station. And then when we moved, I went to, after we got, I'm like, do you want to hear my whole story? I met my husband like right out the gate. And when I moved to Utah from, by way of Arizona, and I met him, and 6 months later we got married, but he had a golf scholarship in Southern Utah. So we moved from Provo, which is an area near where he grew up. And he was in St. George. So we moved down there after we got married. And while I was down there, I was able to get a job at a news station and report. And I thought, like, this is it. Like, I've made it. I've started my career, even though I'm in college. This is great. And I loved it. But then he decided that he wanted to be a dentist. So he's like, I really feel strongly that we need to move back up to Provo, and we can go back to BYU and we'll do this program. And I thought, but I already started my career and I don't want to have to shift and change. But I was like, okay, well, I trust you and I'll just finish, studying broadcast journalism up there. And there were like different things along the way that had changed and happened. Like at first, I didn't have like the right grades and the prerequisites and I had to get appeals, and thankfully it ended up working out. And I got into the broadcast journalism program and worked for a station in Salt Lake for a little bit. I earned scholarships in broadcast journalism and it more than paid for my school, which was a huge blessing. And I just was like so laser focused on that job and that career. Like every job I took, every scholarship I applied for, everything was very, very focused on like getting things laid out so I could have this career in journalism. And I graduated from BYU and moved to Texas. We decided like what state would be great for golf and not have snow. And, and we saw some CNN article and it said, Austin, Texas, #1. And we thought, let's move to Austin. And I ended up applying for a job and I got it. And that was my plan to like work my way up, be in Austin and then move back to Atlanta and work for CNN. And, but along the way, while we've been here in Texas, we had, our first daughter, and my husband started a career as a police officer, and we just were both kind of had crazy schedules with news and stuff. I was working on the weekends. He was working on the weekends. Like I worked early mornings. He worked early mornings. I worked late. Like it was just really hard with kids. And I had been freelance writing for some websites and stuff, some parenting websites and magazines. And I had started my blog as a fun thing to do on the side, just as a creative outlet while I was working in journalism, because I felt like while I loved storytelling and being in journalism, I didn't really have a chance to be silly and share my personality and things like that. So that's when I had started my blog before I had kids.
Yeah. And what year was that you started your blog?
So I started my blog in 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2008, I started my blog the same year I started my job in Austin as a news reporter and anchor. And it was like anonymous because it was like, you didn't want to get caught having a blog when you're a reporter. Like you can't, so it was trying like not to have those worlds collide. But, so it was, at the time it was called Baby Making Machine. And it was all about like my journey toward becoming a mom. And I just got to be silly and fun. And I told my friends about it and it just like was growing and growing and growing. And I was able to get a lot of freelance opportunities through that. And since I was already a writer, it was fun to write for these other websites. And then, after I had my son, who is now 7, so my daughter, I guess, was 2.5 at the time, almost 3. And then my son was a newborn, and we had kind of sat down and thought, all right, like you could still make a little money with your writing and maybe you could make more down the road. But this schedule is just really hard for both of us with the kids, and it's hard finding childcare on the weekends and at these crazy hours. So we decided that I would like take a step back from my job. And it was actually like a fortune cookie that helped me decide to take the leap. Yes, it was.
What did it say?
I saw on Twitter that it was free orange chicken night at Panda Express.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to go get some free orange chicken. And it came with a fortune cookie, and inside it said, take that leap you've been considering. And that was it for me. I was like, okay, it's like, there's my sign. I needed a sign. I'd been praying for like a hardcore, yes, this is, a good thing to do because, like I had said, like I'd focused my whole life on this career, like knowing this is what I wanted to do in journalism. And I had earned all these scholarships, like all these people who believed in me and like helped fund my college and mentor me. And I felt like I was just giving up all of that. And like, they would be not ashamed, but maybe disappointed a little bit that I was stepping away. But my job was super encouraging. My boss, like I went in and when I told them that I just couldn't work weekends anymore and I had to leave, I said I'd love to keep freelancing if it was a possibility. And they loved that idea. So I was able to keep doing it for a while, for several years actually. And just working like 1 to 3 days a week there. And then while I had that as a side, my blog business, I was able to focus more wholeheartedly on and learn new skills and just write more and start working with brands and collaborating. And then it was like, there was this shift in like my income and I just saw, my blog income rising higher and higher. Like I'd already kind of been seeing it trending that way, but then it surpassed my journalism job and it just felt like the right move and time to part ways. And I was happy that I was able to keep working there part-time for a while, more kind of for fun in my resume. And if I ever wanted to kind of keep a foot in the door, but then it just felt good when eventually it was like, all right, I'm done with that phase of my life. I'm a business owner now. And, I work on this with my family and I still get to use all of the skills that I learned in storytelling and photography and videography. And, but now my voice is more of my own versus, sharing the stories of others, which is also really fun.
That's so great. Thank you so much for listening to episode 3. The code word on this episode is Disney. If you want a chance to win hundreds of prizes for this launch week, leave a 5-star review and subscribe. Take a screenshot of that review and DM it to me at Call Me CEO Podcast on Instagram for your chance to win with the code word Disney. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you here next week on Call Me CEO Podcast. So let's talk about that nudge a little bit, because I feel like each of us, when we're about to launch something or do something new, it can be hard to come with that within ourselves. We're looking for that sign. So in your mind, I know you're very goal oriented. Do you write pro and con lists? Were you looking more at the income? Was it more of like time with your kids? Like, what was it that finally gave you that push of like, okay, I'm committing to this. Let's go to the next phase.
Yeah, I mean, I do like to do pro and con lists, but I feel like I've kind of been led a little bit more by intuition or just like my gut, like what's it really saying? Like I do write the pro and con list. I do like think it through logically, but I feel like a lot of my decisions at the end of the day come down to like how it really feels in my gut and what I'm going to do. And then I'm amazed at how once you make that decision, like the most stressful part is the indecision.
Yes.
When you're trying to decide one way or another, like it's agonizing. But then once you've made the decision, like this is what I'm going to do, it's so freeing. And knowing, you've made that choice, and now it's like, okay, now we can move forward and, pursue this. And if you want to change it later, that's okay too. But it's hard when you're stuck in the middle.
I agree with you. I feel like when I've been stuck in the middle, that's when I feel the most agonizing, like the stress of it, because you just don't know that you're just in the middle and it just feels kind of yucky. And I like how you said when you just move forward and it just feels freeing and it just makes so much sense. So now you're at home with your kids, you're doing baby making machine. And at what point were you that you felt like, okay, this is a legit business. Like this is it for me?
Man, when was that? I think it was probably when maybe a year before I had my third child, or like after I had her, or when I found out I was having her, so I decided to rebrand my blog from Baby Making Machine to Cherish 365 after I had both my kids and they were getting a little bit older. My son was 4, my daughter was like 6, 7 years old. And I felt like we were getting out of the baby phase. And I really wanted something that embraced more of what I was trying to share. Like similar, Baby Making Machine was cute and cheeky. And it was, first it started as my journey toward becoming a mother, then my journey through motherhood. And then like making these babies into people. Like I kept trying to kind of mold it and make it work with where I was going and where I wanted to go, but it just didn't feel like it was fitting. So my 30th birthday, I had a vision board party and had stuck all these words on my vision board. And cherish was a word that had popped up. And I had been using the hashtag Cherish365 for like a daily photo series that I had done with my daughter and then my son. And I just thought, wow, this is a really good name. And then I had searched and I'm like, oh, the domain's available. This could be my brand. I think this could work. And so I bought it, I trademarked it. And I felt like that was when it was like, all right, this is a business. Like I have trademarked a name. I have, started this whole thing. Like this could be really big. This can be a thing. And I think at the time I had all these ideas of where my business could go. And, I was thinking, when I think of business, I tend to think of like tangible products. So I was holding myself up a little bit and like, okay, well, someday I'm going to have a product. Someday I'm going to have something people can buy or like a shop or something like this. And I was kind of holding myself up a little bit with that and figuring out what I was going to do and what I was going to sell. But then I found out I was pregnant with my youngest, Aaliyah, who I call Lily. And that just rocked my world because like we thought we were done and I just changed from baby making machine and like now I'm having another baby and like
surprise, you're still a baby maker. I love it.
It was like, what is happening? So that changed a lot for sure because it was like, all right, like drop everything, forget like making stuff and like products and I just need to make it through this like change that we weren't expecting. But it also helped me embrace like really the point of the name and my brand and everything and realize like, it doesn't have to be a product. Like my business doesn't have to look like everyone else's and really like leaning into what my business is and not feeling like it has to look like someone else's, like in understanding like my message is my brand, my content is my brand. This all is a part of it. And having Aaliyah really helped me to see that more and to, the cherishing every day became even easier because it was like, now I have this little person who's growing so fast and her personality is like even completely different than the other two. Like it was just a very eye-opening experience with, and she helped me like seeing her and knowing like, oh my gosh, these newborn years, it's so rough. And like, but I could also turn around and look at my 8-year-old daughter and think like, well, she was just a baby. It like seems like months ago. So it really helped me lean into my brand more because I was like actually living this experience of, yeah, really like cherish every day because it's hard, but it goes by so fast and it is hard and it doesn't take away the fact that it's hard, but it also does just go by so fast. So yeah, having her and then just helped me wake up more. And then I also just didn't have the time to do everything anymore with this extra person. So I had to bring on more contractors. And that was like a big wake up for me. Like, all right, this is legit a business because I'm paying people now. And like, I've got to keep doing this. So I'd say sometime between that, like the rebrand and right before I was pregnant with her. So I guess like 2017 and 2018 when she was born is probably about the time. So that took a while. Like I was like calling myself a hobbyist for like almost 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
was in denial.
I feel like I have watched you go through that transformation because I have watched you do that. And it's been many conversations between us that I'm like, no, like you are a boss. Like you have a legit business that you own and it is incredible. And like you said, I embraced that it didn't look like everyone else's. And I think that is what has made you so successful is that you're very goal oriented and you go after what you want, but you're also so good at creating community and connection. And I'm curious to have you speak to that a little bit because you have developed such a heartfelt community around your brand. How do you think you were able to accomplish that?
Well, I think that a lot of the community has just been with me for so long. Like, I am surprised when I post a flashback picture of Jada when she was on my blog as a newborn, and people were like, I remember this picture. I've been here since before she was born. And
Wow.
I mean, I feel so thankful for that because, that is like loyalty right there and commitment to stay in tune. And a lot, there are like probably a good like handful or couple chunks of people who, I know by name who commented on my blog years ago, who now comment on Instagram or message me, and we keep in touch. And I mean, that's really important to me. I sometimes wish there was a way to foster that even more. Like, I feel like I am very like, message me or chat with me and I will just chat you up, but then at the same time with 3 kids, it gets harder and harder to do that. So I feel like that is something that I'm looking to do, to be a little bit better about, even with allowing my community to connect with one another and not just me, and to share things and have them feel like they can share their stories and things with each other also. But I think just being honest and real and consistent, I think has been some of the main things. I didn't really have a period where I fell off for a long time. And I think that's probably the hardest thing sometimes with people with blogs and other, podcasting and other things in this industry is, starting and then feeling like it's not taking off and then leaving and then trying to pick it back up again. That's hard, but I've been there like every week, usually several times a week for the last more than a decade.
And what was that kept you going?
I think part of it in the beginning, all of it was like journaling. Like I just wanted to, this was like my online journal. I wanted to document and I wanted to share and keep things updated. And then as I learned more about SEO and writing and things that people are looking for and trying to write to help people, I felt like I had this whole identity crisis when it became like people were starting blogs and they're like, you need to be serving people and giving them. And I'm like, well, what have I been doing the last 10 years? I've just been sharing my story, but people still come. So I don't want to totally change what I'm doing. But like finding ways to weave things in that we like, that are helpful, like has been one of the main shifts. Like I still write the personal diaries and I still share a lot of that, and different platforms make that easier. Like Instagram stories definitely feels more like the diary these days. And while I still share some things like that on my blog, it's not as often. And then, my blog gets more of the things that people may want to bookmark and come back to, or my movie reviews or some of my favorite, like a little bit of both, because it's like the personal of what we thought of a new movie. And then, but also helpful because people are looking for like, is it worth buying, or renting or paying to go see this movie?
Yeah, that is so fun. I love all of the content that you make, and you've had some really incredible partnerships. What is one that you're most proud of, or even a few, or if there's something you could think of where you had a partnership that you were like, oh, this is cool?
Yeah, I've been lucky and had like a lot of really cool partnerships, but one that definitely stands out the most is working with Canon, because I just loved their cameras and I've been buying them for years and buying their lenses. And they'd reached out years ago and I got to do some tutorial posts for them on different websites. And then I got to work with them on my own site. And then I got to make a photography course with them and promote that. And I was able to go to New York a couple times and teach there. And that was just like a fun, natural, like very dynamic type of partnership that I did for several years. So that was a lot of fun. Working with Disney has been fun just because we, like it so much, and going there and the movies and stuff. I just feel like that's, just, it's not even like a monetary thing. It's just like fun because it just fits so well and it's who we are. Yeah, those are a couple. I feel like I've lucked out. I really like the ones that like know me and allow me to do collaborations and like giveaways or like charitable type of things. Like right now I'm working with General Mills and box tops, and I feel like I've like been beating people over the head with like box tops are digital now, but you need to like, you can contribute. But it's funny how every time I talk about it, I get more people who are like, oh, okay. Yeah. I just signed up and now I'm doing it. And even though we homeschool, like now we're donating to these schools, and I'm like, yes, it's really cool. It's great. So I think just ones that can get people doing stuff, not necessarily buying things, but doing things like, and maybe that's what's in common with both of those is, like Canon, it's like, okay, taking pictures and how to capture your kids and their essence and who they really are, or like capturing their like crazy wildness. And so it's not in a blurry picture, and, learning how to use these fancy cameras that you got as a Mother's Day gift or whatever. And then, like putting like your grocery shopping, like here's the tip for how you can like put it to use and good use. Those are some of my favorite ones.
Those are all so good. So you've done a lot of years of influencing, and it has changed a lot over the years. Do you feel like if someone were to start today, what advice would you give them to get their foot in the door and even make it possible to work with these incredible brands?
I think, at least in my experience and what I've seen, like something I think that is really important is like knowing who you are and what you want to share. And I know that people will say like be very niche specific, like know what you're going to talk about. Like you're going to talk about plants or organic foods or fitness or, pick it and stick to it is what they'll say. And they'll say lifestyle isn't a niche. Like you need something more concrete. But I don't think that it has to be a topic that you fit into, but having your voice be so specific and so like recognizable to where whatever you're talking about, it works and it fits. So like knowing who you are and your voice and your tone and like whatever your passion is, like if you can tie your passion and your voice into like something, then you can talk about anything. You can talk about cleaner in the way that you talk about, exercising, like, but it just has to do with who you are and, remembering that. So I think that's something that's really important is just it's so easy because in this job, like you have to be online, you have to consume some, but it's easy to overconsume other people's content and then lose your voice and lose sight of what you want to do because it's like you're a dog with squirrels running around and you're like, oh, should I do that? Should I do that? Should I do that? But being aware of what you really want to do and what your voice is and how it's unique, because it is unique. Like you may feel like it's not, but it is. Like you're the only person that has that voice, that has your life experience, that has like, you're the only you ever have been or ever will be. So just remembering that, I think, can help make that a little bit easier. And then just feeling like firm in that and figuring out what you need to do to get back to that, because you're going to fall off the wagon and forget that now and then. Like that happens to everyone. So knowing ways to get back to that. And then just so that's like my like woo way of talking about this. And then I'd say, practical things are just being consistent. Like don't, post once and then run away because it didn't do well and get scared and not post. And like, you just have a consistent schedule. So people know that you're going to be showing up for them and for you. And, just being consistent. And I think if you're having fun with it and you know what your voice is and what your goal is, then that makes it that much easier. At least for me, like it's so hard for me to work if I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
So I think if you're having fun with it, that makes it easier to show up. And then if, you do a post, I know I've written posts and I've thought like, if it only gets 2 likes, I don't care because I'm so proud of this. And with like, it never fails that those are the posts that do the best.
I love that. So, that intention and just being so true to who you are.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about books to read and things that really help transform and discover our own voice. So you're a big reader. What would the top 3, I'm making it 3 because I know 1 is hard. what would top 3 books be to helping someone discover that inner voice or their purpose?
Okay. So for discovering their inner voice or their purpose, that's like a really good specific. Cause I'm like, I have so many books, but
I know.
I feel like that's a good like way to narrow it down. So one that I really liked was Start with Why. I really like that one because it kind of breaks down like, why the why is so important. And it kind of gives you, it helps you figure, like maybe it doesn't necessarily help you figure out what your why is, but it helps you realize why that's so important.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. I really like, surprisingly, it's pretty deep and like, it's not my all-time favorite book. And some people see it as very life-changing, but one that speaks to this idea of like who you are, is A New Earth. I thought that was pretty good in that it like, really helps you like strip away all these labels and things that we put on ourselves. Like, oh, well, I am a homeschool mom. I am a wife. I'm a mom of 3. I'm like, oh yeah, like all these different labels that we try to put on, you know, like our race, our, you know, all these things, and like stripping that away, what's left, you know, that I thought was, really good for that. And what's another one? Man, there's so many. I don't know. Those are my top 2.
Yeah,
I'm like, let me save my third one because I don't want to say it and then be like, wait, no, it was this one. Or
top 2 is good. Top 2 is good. Yeah, no, that's perfect. So you have done something really unique in this business in that you have an agent that works for you outside of New York City. And I want you to speak to that because that's a pretty unique thing. I do not have my own agent. I know others that do, but how did that transform your business and how did you go about having that happen?
Yeah, so that was really scary for me. But so this woman I had met at a blog conference, like maybe I think a year earlier. And I'd spoken with her. I thought she was really nice. I actually didn't even realize that she was an agent when I met her. I just knew that she made press kits for people. And I thought that they were really pretty. And I knew mine was in need of an update. And I didn't realize that one of my friends had her as her agent. But I just knew we were going to stay in touch and I was going to have her work on my press kit. And after the conference, I contacted her and we went through that process and chatted a few times. I loved her work. Like it turned out beautiful. And right at the end of like us tying that up, or maybe it was sometime in the middle of it, I found out that I was pregnant and maybe I told her like towards the end or something. And I just like, I was stressing out, like, how am I going to do everything? And now I'm going to have a newborn. Like it was like kind of changing everything. And she was like, well, I'd love to work with you if you're interested. Like I think we worked well together with this project. And I was like really scared because at that time I had like had a few contractors help me here and there, but I had never paid someone like a substantial salary type thing. And it was a big decision. Like I was like, telling my husband, like, I'm pretty much going to be paying her more than what you bring home. Like, is this worth it? Is this going to be a good investment? But so that was another leap of faith, and it was like a mindset shift that I had to do because we've always been very, very like budget savvy and just very big on like not overspending. So it was hard for me, especially. I knew once I made the decision, I could like work it over with my husband, but it was hard for me to be like, all right, this is going to be worth it. But I had actually read a book, You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen. I'm not sure her last name. I think it starts with an S, but that was like a really, really big game changer for me because I'd gone from thinking like, kind of from a scarcity complex of money, kind of like, I don't need to make lots of money. I just need to like get by. And like, it just shifted my whole views on money because I'd never and at this point, remember, I didn't really like see myself as this business owner, like woman, like I just was like, yeah, if I can pay our bills, like it's good. But I never thought I could make a lot of money. I just never saw myself doing that. So, so that book really shifted things for me, because I was like, oh, well, maybe I could make lots of money. Why couldn't I? Like, what, like what's stopping me? What if I did? What if I did double my income? What if, it just gave me all these what ifs that I'd never considered before, that looking back, I think really was limiting my views and my potential, because I just had a limited mindset. And I think that also limited my potential. So once I broke that away and was like, all right, I'm diving in, like, and if I'm going to pay this person, like, I'm going to have to, make it worth it. And it did, like, it worked out really well. And now I'm like, I don't think I could work without her. So I think that it's, one of those things when, you're thinking about investing in your business, and it's really scary. And some people, I have friends who I think invest very easily, just knowing like it's a business investment, it's going to pay off. I was never that person who could do that. But now I've definitely become more like conscious, but like more willing to invest in my business, knowing that it has the potential to pay off.
That's so awesome. And bravo, because man, I've loved watching that journey for you, because it just is incredible. You've done so many amazing things with your business. And one thing that I love is that you really incorporate your children into creating content. So speak to that a little bit, like how you involve them and how it's taught, especially Jada, how she could have potential in this business down the road if she chose to.
Yeah. It's funny because they were just born into the business, right? Yeah. Like they were just like, here's another baby. And this, my blog was all about my babies. And it's funny because at first I thought, I even have blog posts probably where I was like, well, I'm never going to share pictures of my baby on my blog, just so you guys know, like, we're going to keep that. And then it was like a weekend. I don't even think it was a week. Like, here's my baby, everybody, like pictures. So that definitely changed. And yeah, like, I mean, I think it started out as like like through my perspective of parenting, like through my eyes, and this is what they did. And this is my perception of this. And it still is, but now I'm trying to allow them to present themselves however they want to, and just kind of giving them a chance to have a platform. And also I think that it kind of sharing little blips of them here and there, I think, went from like, here's my cute kid and what I dressed him in and, what she wore for Halloween, to now like the explanation behind why we chose this costume, or why this was so fun for them, or, why my son loves these animals, or my daughter is into, works hard and getting these skills and her cheer and gymnastics. And like, it's more of the why behind all of those things, and it's showing their personalities. And I think that, it's become more intentional for sure. Like, okay, I'm not always just going to show them just to show them. I am, giving like little glimpses of who they are, and like sharing their light. And I've noticed more and more parents responding and saying that they appreciate that. Like they appreciate how the way that they'll put it is like how you are tailoring like what you're teaching and your kids around their interest, or you're letting them be who they are, or how you see your children, like the way that you see them. Like I see these things and I'm like, okay, I'm glad this gets through, because that is my intention now when I share them. It's not just like, oh, here's my kid with this thing, but it's like, giving you a glimpse that, you guys see me all the time and who I am, but these people that I'm raising are actually kind of quite different than me in many ways. And I hope that it helps other parents see their kids a little bit differently too, and maybe approach things with them and like see them for who they are, and not just as their child, but as their own person. So that's been really fun for me to show them that way. And it's been fun to also see my audience get more attached to them in different ways. Because Aaliyah is so easy to attach to, Lily, because she's just so cute and funny
the
and
cutest.
But my other kids, I can see people growing attached to them too, because they're not just seeing a photo or just seeing them in the background or hearing them randomly say like what we're eating for dinner or whatever, but they're also hearing what excites them, and they can see them lighting up when they're talking about something that is their spark.
Yeah. And I think that can be different for each family, because in mine, my kids are not as camera friendly as yours are. And I think being in this business, or I mean, any mother on social media now is making that choice of how much they want to share, how much their kids will be sharing. And I think at each, with each kid, that level of interest is different. And so You just need to have an open conversation of what does that look like and how do we do this? Because I have been in situations before where I've needed to get a product of a picture or a picture of a product or do some video, and the child involved is like, no, like I'm not interested in this.
Yeah.
So that can be tricky too. But I think that there's been a lot of lessons learned being able to see me work as their mother and see what the process of creativity can look like and how that affects our family and allows us to pay the bills. And I think it's teaching a lot of lessons in our house. And I know that you are a big believer in goal setting and have achieved some really incredible goals lately. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, okay. First, I do want to say that if my kids are in a picture for a product, I do pay them.
Yes.
And that definitely helps them feel more like open to doing something.
Totally.
I don't pay them a lot, but they're like happy for a couple dollars, and I, and then other things that I share of them are like totally whatever they want. Like Ty, when he talks about animals, like a lot of the times he's not on camera, but maybe it'll just be his voice or something, or I'll say, or he'll come to me when he's holding a snake and be like, can you record me? And I'm like, yes, sure. I love it. But yes, like every kid is totally different.
I wish my kids were more like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, this is fun. But no. And I will pay my kids too.
Do you? Okay.
Yes. If they are in photos and are doing or even filming for me sometimes, I will pay them. But I do tell them that they have to have a positive attitude, because when they become an employee someday, your attitude and your work ethic are part of that job. Like you can't just do it, waltz in there and have a stinky attitude and expect to be paid. So we talk about that. Yeah, you get fired. And so we talk about that. Yeah. Like that you can be a part of this, but
that's a really good lesson. Yeah,
I think it has been. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So with goal setting, I mean, we are big on that for sure. And I totally talk to my kids about that all the time. I don't think they're annoyed, but I am very, especially my oldest, like, well, what are your goals? And okay, what about in this area of life? And okay, so what are you doing today to help you reach that, goal for next week or whatever? And I work the same way with myself. And I feel like I will set a goal. And at first, when I'm first setting it, it seems completely outrageous and like, oh, I don't know if this is going to happen. And then after telling myself over and over and over again that it's going to happen, then it just becomes like a no-brainer. It's crazy how, I mean, maybe that sounds crazy. I don't know. Or maybe that sounds like, yeah, that sounds about right. But when we found out we were having Lily, it was kind of like, okay, are we going to stay in this house or should we move? We built that house that we were in before. And my husband was like, we're never moving again. Like, I hate moving. This is like, okay. But his mom was like, no, you guys need more space. You're having another baby. And
which I love your mother-in-law, by the way. Can we just?
Oh yes, you did get to
that? Yeah. Oh, I love her.
So great. She's so great. And she has gotten in my head a couple times. And that was one of those times that I was like, well, maybe we do need a bigger place. But maybe if we did, we could just get everything we want. And I just want a place with trees. Like, it was something in the back of my mind that I had wanted that we didn't have where we were. I was like, if we had an acre, if it was the same house on an acre, I would be so happy and I would be fine. So then when we found out we were having Aaliyah, we were like, okay, an acre and an office, so it was like a little bit more. And we, like my husband we looked around, like I had hired a realtor and we were looking around and there were like old houses and places. It just all seemed really expensive and out of budget, or maybe we'd have to fix it up, or like, it was just, I wasn't sure how it would happen. And then also like convincing my husband that we could move and that we could afford it. And I was just like, what if I save for half of the house before we move? Like, what if I just save 50%? That way we can just put half down. Our payments won't be that much more than we're paying right now on our house. And he was like, okay. And we have to sell our condo, because we had a condo in Utah at the time that like we bought right before the recession and we're hanging on to. I'm like, okay, done. Like you tell me the terms, then I will make it happen. So I called a realtor. We sold the condo like 30 days later. And I'm like, now I just have to save for the house. Yeah. And then that was just my focus. Like, I'm saving, we're going to put 50% down. And after looking around for like maybe a month or so, we realized that maybe building a house would be better, just because I'd have more time to save that way. I was getting really stressed out about like looking at what was on the market and when things popped up and if it would perfect. Like, I just didn't want to miss something, and I didn't want to like wait around forever. So I was like, let's just build. And we found a plan, like we negotiated and got everything we wanted. Like, it was very, very similar to our last house in many ways, but we added an upstairs with a movie room and a playroom. And then I was just saving, and we'd already been saving like pretty much like our entire marriage. We had saved a little bit. And then as our income increased, we just saved more instead of spending more. And, but I was basically like, we were like, all right, we're saving, but we're not including the money that we've already saved, like kind of like starting fresh. I think we did include the money from selling our condo, but we wanted to keep our savings that we already had. So it was a challenge, but I was like, if this is what it's going to take, like I will do it. And once we had the final number of what our build was going to be, like, you know how if you build a home, you go into a design center and they try to get you to upgrade every little thing. And I was like, no, we're keeping it basic for everything. And we came in at like a really great price. And I was like, all right, I think I can do this. So then I had my number, and just like everything I made that year, I just was saving every penny of it. And then when it came time to close, we were able to put, like, we were like, what if we just round the number out? So it ended up being 51% down. And then we were like, all right, let's make a goal. Like, we were so happy when we closed. We were like, let's make a goal to pay it off within 5 years. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like, that's a good goal. We can get on that and like mapping out the payments. But then at the beginning of this year, I was like looking at our numbers and everything, and we've still been saving. And I was like, you know what? Like, what if we paid it off this year? I think we could do that. I think we could do it if we like really, really save. I think we could pay it off this year. And, at this point we had been in the house for a year. So we were like, my husband is kind of skeptical, but also knows like, if I set a goal, like I'm going to go for it. So he's like, sure, we could see like maybe. And I just mapped it out and started going for it. And like at first, like I was saying with the goal, like at first it seemed a little bit crazy. And I was like, I don't know if I want to really like put it out there and say I'm doing that this year. And I didn't really tell many people, like I told you. And, of course my husband knew, but I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. But like towards the middle of the year, I'm like, this is going to happen. Of course this is going to, and then like, it's like this, of course this is going to happen. When are we paying it off? When can we pay it off? So, we just paid it off, and, yes, I'm so excited. Like it's still,
so cool.
It's still settling in, but it's in under 2 years. So our 2 years will be coming up with when we closed on the home, and, we paid off. And part of it was because I was so mad because they gave us a bad, interest rate. So I was like, let me get this,
So you bought a house and paid it off in 2 years.
Yes.
And primarily from your income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
primarily. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. Okay. So one question that I'm asking everyone that comes on the show is, do you believe that family and life can be balanced with business, or do you think that that is a myth?
No, I don't think it's a myth. I definitely think it's a possibility. I don't think it's always easy, depending what your business is. But I think if that's your goal, like if your goal in your business is to also have that balance, then I absolutely think it's possible. It might mean shifting obligations and tasks and duties one way or another, but I don't think you'll always be leveled out in that balance and like equally balanced. I think sometimes business will come before family and sometimes family comes before business, but I definitely think, like averaging it out on a week or a month, I think it's possible.
Yeah. And what are some things that you've done that have helped you to achieve that?
I think for me, like setting intentional limits on things or boundaries with my kids, with my emails, or whatever that is. Like, okay, I'm only going to check my emails at this time and this time, or knowing like right now I work on weekends every week and I know that's going to happen, but I know that I'm going to take off like 2 days in the middle of the week. So just being flexible and knowing that your business just might not look like everyone else's, or it might not be like a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 kind of business, depending on what it is. Like it may look weird and it may look different, but if you still get the balance out of it, then you want it. I think that's what counts.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing so much with us today. It has been so fun to interview you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone who's listened in today, and make sure that you send me a screenshot of your 5-star review with a comment review on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast for your chance to win some amazing prizes. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.